doing large scope projects with an independent studio, which is our studio. So I hope this gets me to the next slide. Okay, now I gotta figure it out. So yeah, welcome to the talk, and my name is Klose. I'm from Deck13, where I'm a co-founder and owner of the company, and we're around since 2001, which is, I think, a pretty long time for game developers. And it wasn't always like that we thought, okay, we will be around for much longer, but luckily, really, we had the chance to build up the studio. And yeah, I've been the creative director of two titles that we recently did. The first is Lords of the Fallen, which you can see here, and the second one was The Search, that was released last year. So Lords of the Fallen was a single-player action RPG, a very duel-based system. Several people compared it with Dark Souls, for example. The budget was a bit below 10 million here, and then actually with the next one, we used the scenario, we used the system and put it into a new scenario, a near future scenario, and yeah, worked on what we thought we can do well, and yeah, developed The Search that you can see here. So speaking of large scope projects, what does that mean? I just picked some other examples. The numbers are all a bit shaky because nobody really knows the budgets, and looking at The Witcher with, let's say, just $45 million as a budget looks very crazy. But also we have GTA with 135 million, or Watch Dogs here, and also Metal Gear Solid with the big higher budgets, but still, yeah, I mean, they're crazy high. There's the big movies that don't have that budget. So why are we there, and what's our idea, and why are we doing that after all? Because I tend to say this is basically the worst business model that you can have, because just think about it. You have lots of people that you have to pay every month, and they cost lots of money. So you have millions of pounds in that case, because we're in the UK, to pay the people. And at the same time, I mean, when you finish one project, you need to start the next project, because, well, you have the people, you have to pay them. So you can't just say, like in the movie industry, okay, then you all come back for the next project in 2 years, or maybe never, but you need to keep the people. And so you need to work on the next project while your first project isn't even finished, which means you have this crazy double layer of stress at the most important phase of the beginning of the project and the end of the project, which is not so nice. And after all, well, we're based in Germany, so why that? I mean, that's I would say another issue that we have here, because I just think of what Germany is known for in the creative industry. We have this submarine World War II movie from, I think, the 70s. And we have this 80s band that did one hit that was known in other countries. So I think that's not the best track record that you can have when you want to work in the creative industry, right? So in the end, still we made it, but not only in Germany. So our budget, which is yeah, under the 10 million limit, came from a French publisher, Focus Home, and the team with 50 to 70 people had a time of 2.5 years to work on this title, which was a lot of time for a lot of people, but always not enough time, of course. And well, our vision, I already outlined that, so we took our Lords of the Fallen IP and said, okay, let's try to change that into something very new, where we have a very new core feature also, where you can target individual body parts in real time and actually can cut them off and craft something for yourself. And yes, we even came up with a story in the background where this cruel way of crafting and improving your character actually makes a little bit of sense. So we were really, really happy to find something good here that really worked out. So here you can see a little bit from The Search, some screenshots. So here we see the hero Warren walking through some outside environment. There's a lot of fighting in the game. It's basically mostly about fighting, upgrading your character, but there's also a story showing how the world might look like in whatever, 50 years from now. Yeah, you got outside environments, you're inside a big factory complex, there's a lot of different weapons and gear that you can equip, that you can craft. And yeah, as I said, it's really focused on dual one-on-one fights, about tactical fights, about your approach on this fight. And well, there's a lot to explore also in the game world. So yeah, it's really a little bit for everyone who likes RPGs, but it's not as big as some of the large titles that we just saw in one of the first slides. And yeah, there's big stuff in there also, which is the bosses that you have to fight into. You have to prepare a lot for those boss fights. In the end, this all was received pretty well, so we were really, really happy about the game. And now, in like looking back at it and looking at our new team, there's always the question for us: how can a team like us compete when we say we got a title like The Search and we just call it a goal an A+ game? So we stole that from like the rating agencies, where we say, okay, this is basically called upper medium grade there in the financial sector. So this is what we want to do, and as opposed to something like we have a AAA game here where we say, okay, this is really like the prime segment where we have Assassin's Creed, for example, where you have 1,000 people or more working on it. Well, basically they're not all working on it all the time, but just imagine the resources you have. You have these people and you have them available to produce your game. This is really crazy. So we said, how can we compare this? And we said, okay, there's maybe bad things to compare this and good things. So we said, if you look at the movie industry, you have movies like this action movie with a very big budget, with super cool special effects, and still I would say an entertainment product. It's not maybe of high cultural value, but it's a really, really cool blockbuster that I think returned lots of hundreds of millions. And on the other hand, we have In the Name of the King. Maybe some of you saw the movie, which is actually pretty terrible. And it was originally called Dungeon Siege. Now it's very, very tiny, a Dungeon Siege tale. So someone was maybe not very proud of that, or something else. They're actually both from German producers, which is Roland Emmerich and Uwe Boll. So they can do more good things and more bad things. And we said, okay, this is not actually what we want to do, so how can we find something to compare with the big ones that makes sense? So we said it's maybe more something like District 9 that also had a very small budget, but not like no budget. It did have a decent budget, but really, really small compared to large titles. But it's a cool movie. You don't see that it's a budget movie because it's just created in a very, very good way, and the special effects are top-notch. We said this is basically what we want to do. We want to do something small and cool, and people are not supposed to say, yeah, I mean, it's nice because people didn't have so much budget, but anyway, I like them, they're nice people. We want people to say, okay, this was a cool game, I don't care about the budget or anything, I was just impressed and I just liked the game, and I'm buying it. So this is basically what we said our way to compete. We pick a niche where we say, okay, there's not so much going on that is already filled and there's no space for us, and the goals that people say, Deck13, okay, well, this is actually a pretty cool game. I'm looking forward to the next one. This is actually when we say, if we achieve this, we're one step further, one very, very important step further. So for us, we identified 3 keys how we made this become a success. The first is obviously the money. Second is planning, managing the project, and the third is creativity, is the ideas that go into the project. These 3 together, if they work well together, are what we need to make a good game, and I think what developers in general need in this let's say segment to make good games. Funding I already said, so for The Search we had Focus Home as the publisher funding it. The previous game, Lords of the Fallen, was funded by a Polish publisher, so we were looking in Europe, and as you see there's no Germany there, which may also be a hint on why it's not so easy in Germany to get a creative product on the market, because funding creative products in Germany is pretty tricky because it's no cars, it's no banks, and it's nothing that has been there for 50 years, so everybody already knows that it's safe to do it. So, well, that's maybe not the best place, but you see there's other ways. So we said for us, finding the funding is, any type of funding is okay, unless, well, it's morally critical, or you might get murdered if you don't pay the money back. So we said, okay, let's find something where we can be safe with. We look worldwide, we look at every opportunity that we have, and the one important thing is we try to understand our partner so that if they have some issues, we don't say, no, it's going to be okay, just trust us, just look at the final result and don't mess with our development. We say, okay, you have an issue, please tell us what it is. We try to figure it out, we try to find a solution on the way so that we don't lose them, because actually the worst thing that can happen, I think, to any development is that you just run out of money. So if you don't have this covered, you can forget everything else, all the cool ideas, the team, everything. So this should be like one core aspect of the whole production. Of course, not for everybody, but for some key people. Then coming to the planning, we said, okay, what we want to do is we want to find the talent. We think there's always good local talent. If you look around, it doesn't need to be the US, the UK, it can be Germany. I think even if you have a studio in Croatia, you will find people around you that have good talents that you can maybe start a company with. But we're hiring worldwide. We have people from the US, from the UK, from Spain, from Italy in our company. So we really try to find the people that are fitting, and then we try to make everything work for them so that they feel good at our company. And we want to keep them, so we try to have people stay long at the company, so when they develop their skills, they can then use them for the next project or for the next things they're doing. Then of course we try to approach things from a very, let's say, straight perspective. So we start with the vision for the project, then we start with a high concept, like 1 page of the idea about the project. We try to sell this to everyone. Then we do the design concept, which is maybe 20, 30 pages where everybody says, okay, this is the game we want to do. And then we have kind of design document or work breakdown sheet, something where we really say, okay, this is what we need to do. At the beginning, this is basically numbers, like so and so many enemies, so and so many items, and so on. And then we try to fill it bit by bit. But all the time we have our plans, and we have dedicated people who can just tell us, are we on track? Does this work out? Do we still have some space or not? And if not, then we need to react, we need to shift stuff. So this is happening all the time while we're advancing in the project. We just manage all the time, there's no breaks to that. But of course, still, we're not perfect with this, so there's a lot of risks also for us. Sometimes we react too slowly to problems, so we need to be more keen to see, okay, is there a problem arising? Sometimes we just don't discover the problem fast enough, so it's not the reaction, but it's just seeing if something's happening. And sometimes it's, okay, we know there's a problem, but we don't know where it comes from, so maybe the feature is bad or just not fun, and but it's because people are fighting, so we should stop them fighting and get them to become a good team and become creative instead of trying to exchange the feature for some other feature. So sometimes this is tricky, and of course I think the curse of every development is you just want too much, you think you can do it, but in the end you can't. So this is, yeah, we think we can, or we just don't know about it, which is the experience part. But in the end, this needs constant checks, and this is very hard because everybody has their ideas, their darlings, and sometimes you say, okay, this will not work out. So this is a tricky thing. And also, with 60 people, you cannot just pull off a project like the search for the sheer amount of assets you need to put in there. So with the art, we outsourced 70 to 80% of all the assets that we did, and we tried to keep the main assets and the main, let's say, intelligence at the studio, but the rest we outsourced: concept art, 3D assets, characters, animations, everything. We had awesome partners, mainly in China, but also in India, that helped us to bring this to life. With audio, also we sourced out some stuff, and with tech, even though we created our own engine, we had a lot of middleware that I would say counts as outsourcing because we didn't need the development power in-house to do this, and spend some money. So here I just want to show you how these asset briefings look like, because this is really, we developed a crazy tool chain to make this possible. So this is all coming from the artist, and it's very, very, very detailed how we give stuff to the outsourcers before they even start doing something. And it's still more work, yes, to do the asset itself than just do this document, even though this takes many hours to do. And here you can see how this is sometimes combined. We have this artwork already coming from us. You can see here even the white box model is already coming from our team. So in the end, we already have the design ready to say it needs to have exactly this shape. We're sending this over to you. We show you material examples. We give you a hint on how we're using it in the game. So in the very best case, it works like that. We just hit on an import button, and our white box model is then exchanged by the action model coming from the outsourcer. This took about 5 years before this was actually possible, so it sounds very nice, but really took a long time. And here you can see this thing, this tracks thing in the game environment fitting in neatly. So yeah, this is just one example of the thousands of assets that we did for this asset-heavy game. Then the final point that I want to make is the creativity that we have. We say, on the one hand, we need to provide the structure for the team, provide the structure for the publisher, for everybody who's involved. And then on the other hand, say, okay, well, there's the team, there's the creativity in the team. And we have so many people on our team, and if we get them behind that one vision, if they all want to make the game, know what game to make, then we can really get them creative, get all their ideas into the game. So when we provided the framework and say, okay, we check what we want to do, like picking the niche and checking what's good on the market, what we can go with, and then saying, okay, this fits to the team on the other hand. So we have the outside perspective, with the inside perspective, saying, okay, this fits to the team, so let's do this. And then, in the end, we develop the experience in the team by also keeping the people for a long time on the project, and also the ownership. And that's like, I think, the most interesting thing that we developed over the time. This is how our company actually works. or should work. Sometimes it doesn't, but it should work like this. So with these three individual departments that are pretty different from one another, but we're building joint teams as we develop a game. Sometimes they're together in a room, sometimes they're just really more casually, and in the center of all that we have a vision group, which is basically some people monitoring the process, seeing if the game flow works, seeing if the ideas still work, and that's basically how this is set up. And if they all work together in the way that we think they should, then we really get a really cool team. So we try to see what we can do, what we cannot do. We can see what costs the most in the project and maybe has the least effect, so we throw that out. For the search, for example, it was cinematics, it could be features, it could be playtime. Playtime is a very good thing to always cut out. So summing up, everything is, it's for us about the budget, about financing, it's about the cool planning, and it's a lot about the creativity. And in the end, we think it's not about this one genius person saying, I have the perfect idea and this is going to be the perfect game, but it's really about an experienced, hard-working team that you really have that can cover all the things you need to do, and about you motivating the team and really getting them to have fun. And in the end, I think this is what it's all about, to really have fun, and this doesn't need any budget at all. So thank you for your attention. Okay, let's take one or two questions. Yes. Yes, please.
Who did you get published?
You mean how did we find a publisher?
Yeah.
Actually, we've been visiting lots of trade shows and did a lot of pitching. So we had our pitching stuff together and said, okay guys, this is what we want to do. Please give us your money. And actually, we had to find people who really want to have these kinds of games. So there's so many worldwide that you can go to, but there's maybe dozens that you can go to, maybe some more. And actually, we had a video of movie scenes cut together that showed how the game was supposed to feel. So we had District 9, Edge of Tomorrow, Blade Runner, all that intercut into a very fast 1-minute trailer to show this is how we want the game to feel. And this was working pretty well. And still there was maybe 3 people really interested in the end to sign with us, and not like 30 or something. So in the end also, we maybe were a little bit lucky to get this opportunity. Any other questions?
With so much art outsourcing, and obviously you had the documents and how stuff should, but were there problems getting that consistent kind of look, through all of that, if it's 80% of the art aspects?
Well, actually, the consistency was not the biggest problem, because the consistency was covered by our outsourcing preparation. So I think the most important stuff was, how do we get the people working together with us to understand what we want to do and to keep the consistency. So we had our artists managing the outsourcing. So we had 3 people maybe over months who were just talking to outsourcers, having a Skype protocol open where they were exchanging stuff, exchanging models, then having like the red pen circling, like this is not really what we need, and so on. So it was constant feedback, I would say. And the other thing that we had is, when we started working with the outsourcers, we had, I think, 2 trips to China, visiting them in their office, telling them about the idea, meeting the team, educating them in our editor that we had, training them on how to do the assets, and then getting back home. So we really took a lot of effort to make this happen. But in the end, the stuff that was arriving was surprisingly on spot. That was like the reward for doing all of this. But also, this is the 3rd project we're doing this with. So with the first, it was not going so well. Okay. Yeah, thank you.